Lately, I've been racking my brain trying to figure out if there were any real signs, anything concrete, that my wife was cheating. But there wasn't a smoking gun. Just this growing collection of little things. Nothing huge on its own, but together they started to weigh on me. I couldn't put my finger on it, but something didn't feel right. I was almost certain something was happening, but I had no idea what it was, who it involved, or where it was going down. I even started doubting myself, wondering if I was just being paranoid or imagining things. Still, that gut feeling? It wouldn't let up. My stomach was in knots. It could have been nothing, or it could have been the start of an affair. Maybe it already happened once. The more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that something was off. I'd been wrestling with those thoughts for weeks, but who knows how long this had been going on before I even noticed a thing. I took another slow sip of my Jack Daniels and gave a subtle nod to the bartender. He returned it with this half-smile, like he'd seen 100 guys sit there looking like I did. I glanced around the quiet bar. Conversations buzzed in the background, but the place felt lifeless. The faces around me were dull, worn out. Everyone looked like they were just killing time. One woman stood out. Probably in her 40s, dressed like she was hoping it was still a Saturday night in 2003. She sat with some older guy, who looked like he was trying too hard, but judging by how she leaned in, he didn't need to. She already had him wrapped. Everyone else was just lingering, waiting out the rain, maybe pretending they had nowhere better to be. Eventually, they'd all head home. I, on the other hand, had no idea what I was going to do. Then I heard her voice. Soft, but sharp enough to cut through my thoughts. I turned, and there she was, Sammy, looking right at me. Her eyes caught mine like she could see straight through me. I opened my mouth to say something, but nothing came out. She walked in from the rain, water dripping off her coat. As she shrugged it off, I couldn't help but ask, "Why are you here?" She said she was worried. Said she had this feeling she'd find me here. That we needed to talk. I just looked at her, trying to read her. Could I trust her? I took another sip of my drink, then ordered her a vodka soda. We waited for the bartender to move on before we kept talking, our eyes locked in this silent exchange, both of us trying to figure out where this was going. Sammy said she noticed something in me lately. That I seemed heavy. Like I was carrying a burden. She wasn't wrong. I looked at her, those deep brown eyes, but I couldn't hold the gaze. There was an unspoken understanding between us. I told her everything was fine, tried to brush it off. But I could tell by the look on her face that she didn't buy it. She leaned forward, fingers laced, eyes locked on mine. "I know what's going on," she said. I tried to play dumb, but Sammy wasn't having it. She asked if we could move to a booth, said we needed some privacy. I didn't really want to, but I agreed. Once we sat down, I asked, "What exactly do you think you know?" I was still trying to dodge the conversation, but she saw right through it. "You can't lie to me," she said. "Not after everything." She wasn't wrong. We'd known each other since she was 17. Back when I was dating her older sister, Claire. Sammy always had this innocent crush on me, even then. Claire was 3 years older, more serious. Sammy and I always got along, which sometimes caused tension between the two sisters. Claire and I ended up getting married 2 years later. We built what I thought was a good life, decent jobs, a nice home. Comfortable. Sammy, meanwhile, had enjoyed her wild early 20s, but now, at 25, she was settling down. She'd grown into someone any guy would be lucky to have in his corner. Claire and I were coming up on our 5th anniversary. At least, we were supposed to. Lately, I wasn't so sure we'd make it. And here I was, sitting across from Sammy, my sister-in-law and, in many ways, my closest friend, trying not to fall apart while she watched me unravel. She reached across the table, gently running her fingers over mine. My throat tightened. My heart cracked just a little more. Then she said it. "If you won't say it, I will. I think she's cheating on you." Her words hit like a punch to the chest. I sat there, stubbornly clinging to whatever scraps of denial I could find. My brain kept trying to make excuses, trying to convince me that if I didn't fully accept it, if I didn't say the words out loud, then maybe it wasn't real. Maybe I could dodge the heartbreak by pretending none of it was happening. But Sammy saw right through me. She stared at me, her expression sharp. "Is that shock on your face, or just plain denial?" she asked gently. Then she softened her tone. "I care about you, you know. I've always cared. And I really hope I'm wrong. Maybe it's all just some big misunderstanding. But you need to wake up." I tried brushing her off, still feeding myself whatever lies I could muster. But Sammy wasn't having it. Her eyes flashed, and she slammed her hand on the table. The sound drew a few glances from across the bar, including a concerned look from the bartender. "It's fine," I said quickly, trying to wave him off. Sammy took a breath, then apologized for the scene. But her frustration was boiling over. "Don't you see what's happening?" she said, voice low but firm. "You can't keep ignoring this. You need to do something. We need to figure this out." I finally gave her a small nod, my throat tight. "All right. Let's start." She sat back a little and took a deep breath, like she was bracing herself. Then she told me about something that had happened a couple of weeks ago. She and Claire, my wife, were hanging out, and Claire got a call. Instead of answering it there, like she usually would, she left the room. Sammy said that struck her as weird. They were sisters, after all. Why the sudden need for privacy? I swallowed hard, already dreading where this was going. She kept going. That night she noticed Claire's phone lying around. And out of curiosity, or maybe suspicion, she picked it up. No passcode. Just an incoming call from someone saved as Robert. Sammy said she didn't know any Robert. Or Bob. And Claire had never mentioned one either. So she made a mental note to keep an eye out. I leaned in. "So, who is this Robert guy?" She hesitated before answering. After a week or so, I figured it out. He's someone Claire knew before you two even got together. They must have reconnected online. Facebook, maybe? Or one of those chat apps. And yeah, they've been messaging. A lot. I blinked, stunned. I had no idea. "Of course you didn't," Sammy said quietly. "They've been careful. Subtle. That's how these things start. It's never obvious at first. It's like everything in your life is still there, but a little colder. Like there's a wall you didn't notice going up until it was already built." I asked the question I wasn't sure I wanted the answer to. "So, is it just old friends catching up? Or is it something more?" She looked down for a second. "It started that way," she said. "But it's not like that anymore." My heart dropped. "And I didn't notice anything?" "You noticed," she said gently. "You just didn't want to believe it." She was right. I had noticed the distance, the excuses, the quiet. I just kept pushing the thoughts away. "I mean, even our fun has vanished," I muttered. "No time. No spark. It's like life's been conspiring to keep us apart." Sammy just gave me this look, part sympathy, part frustration. "You need to pull your head out of the sand," she said. "I love you, and I can't watch you keep lying to yourself." I stared at her. "How far has this gone?" Her eyes shifted, just briefly. And that flicker in her expression was all the confirmation I needed. Rage started rising inside me. "When? Where? How many times?" I demanded, voice low and sharp. She sighed. "From what I know, she's met him at least 3 times in the past 2 weeks. I didn't know for sure at first, but 2 days ago, I had lunch with a friend who works with Claire." Something slipped out. Sammy leaned in, speaking slowly now. "She had lunch with him twice last week. And dinner once." It sounded casual, but not innocent. I sat there, staring at the table. And suddenly it all made sense. A couple of times recently, I'd called Claire at work to see if she wanted to grab lunch. Each time, she was either out or had just left. I'd shrugged it off. But now? Then there was that seminar last week. Last minute thing, supposedly. She came home after midnight, said it ran late, and that the team grabbed drinks at the hotel bar afterward. She went straight to the shower when she got home. No intimacy. Nothing. I rubbed my forehead. My head was spinning, the weight of it all crashing down. Sammy must have seen the storm building in me, because she leaned over and said, "Don't do anything stupid, okay? Don't go getting yourself arrested or something." I could feel my jaw clenching. My pulse was racing. But her voice helped anchor me. "I'm not gonna let this go," I said through gritted teeth. "I'm done sitting on my hands. I'm going to end this, one way or another. She cheats on me? She pays. Both of them do. Then make sure you've got a plan," Sammy warned. "Don't just blow up without thinking. That's how people make mistakes." I looked at her, breathing hard, trying to keep from exploding. "Do you know where she is right now?" Sammy nodded. "With him. I'm almost sure. That's why I came to find you." The anger bubbled up again, full force. I slammed my hand on the table. People turned to look. The bartender raised his eyebrows, already on alert. I turned to Sammy and asked if she knew exactly where they were. She shook her head, frustration creeping into her voice. "Not yet," she said. "But I'm planning to talk to Claire tomorrow. Try to squeeze out some details. I'll see what I can find." She went on to explain that the guy, this Robert, was married too. Had a couple of kids even. She didn't know where he lived, though. Still, she promised to dig deeper and get back to me with whatever she could. I reached for her hand and gave it a firm squeeze. She didn't pull away. There was a tear clinging to her cheek, and I wiped it away gently. "Thanks, Sammy," I said softly. "I know this isn't easy for you either." She looked down, her brow furrowed in worry. "What are you going to do?" "I'm not acting on impulse," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "But this ends soon. And when it does, there will be consequences. For both of them. No second chances." She nodded slowly. "I'm going to protect what's mine," I added. "I'll get the proof I need. And then? I'll make sure she doesn't walk away with a dime." I downed the rest of my Jack Daniels and signaled the bartender, slipping him a bill and telling him to keep the change. Sammy still looked concerned. "When are you going to talk to Claire?" "Tomorrow," I said. "I've got a few calls to make. Gotta get ahead of this before she even realizes I'm on to her. But first, I'm locking down everything I care about. She's not taking anything from me." She leaned back, exhaling deeply. "It must be hell, being around her right now." I nodded. "It is. Has been for a few weeks now. If she hasn't noticed the difference by now, she probably never will." Sammy stood and slipped her coat on. I stood with her, helping her with the collar. In that moment, with her so close, I noticed again just how much she looked like her sister. But where Claire now felt distant and cold, Sammy looked up at me with eyes full of concern. And tears. I kissed her cheek, just a light, thankful touch. "I'll be okay," I said. She nodded, forced a smile, and walked out into the rain, disappearing into the dark. I sat back down and let out a deep breath. My chest felt tight, my thoughts racing. One thing was crystal clear: they were going to pay. Swiftly, relentlessly, and without mercy. I don't remember much after that. Somehow, I ended up back in my own bed, my mouth feeling like it had been stuffed with sandpaper. My head throbbed as I tried to sit up, everything still swimming. I turned over, no sign of Claire. Then I heard it. Movement downstairs. I slid my legs off the bed, groaned, and forced myself up. My joints ached, my mind still foggy. Stumbling into the bathroom, I splashed water on my face and stared at my reflection. I didn't recognize the guy looking back at me. Eventually, I made my way to the kitchen. There she was. She glanced at me, a little amused. "Rough night?" she asked. I shrugged. "Ran into an old friend. Had a couple drinks." Got a little carried away. I sat down at the table, poured a glass of orange juice, downed it, then poured another. She leaned on the counter and cocked her head. Which friend? My brain kicked into gear. Bob, I said. You wouldn't remember him. College buddy. Football team. He's in town on business. At the mention of his name, I caught a tiny shift in her face. Nothing dramatic. Just something. She turned away quickly. I kept going, weaving a believable memory. We haven't talked in years. Just happened to bump into him. Claire squinted slightly. Bob, huh? I don't think I remember a Bob. Yeah, I said casually. It's been a while. We had some good times back in the day. She shrugged. As long as you had fun, I guess. Warning sign number 1. She sat across from me as I remembered my talk with Sammy. I played dumb, asking about her night. She told me she stayed late at work, then grabbed a quick bite and a drink with coworkers. Claimed she was home by 9:30. Even added that she was worried about me because of a late meeting. Thing was, I knew she wasn't home by then. I was still there at 10, pacing the living room, wondering where the hell she was. That's when I left and went to the bar. Warning sign number 2. She started talking about her morning plans, saying she had errands and might be home late. Then she said something that stopped me cold. Bob might reach out, she said. We're supposed to catch up. I raised an eyebrow. You should invite him over, I said lightly. I'd love to reconnect. Always nice seeing old friends again. She paused. You remember him, right? She asked, giving me that careful look. I kept my expression neutral, but I saw it, the flicker. That hesitation she couldn't quite hide. No need, I said. I'll be fine on my own. Then I stood, poured myself more juice, popped a couple painkillers, and went to get dressed. I had work to do. I didn't waste time that morning. I swung by the bar and picked up my car. By the time I got back, Claire was still getting ready for her day, going about her routine like everything was normal. I dressed quickly, my mind racing. My resolve was hardening. This couldn't go on. I clenched my fists, thinking about her with that guy, Bob. I hated him with a passion I hadn't felt in years. If I ever got the chance, I swore I'd make him regret every step he took near her. Work that day was a blur of back-to-back calls, constant interruptions, and minor crises that refused to wait. My secretary handled what she could, but some things needed my attention. The pressure was maddening, but beneath it all, I could feel something darker building inside me. That itch for payback was growing stronger. By mid-morning, the chaos died down just enough for me to deal with what really mattered, my personal business. I shut my office door, sat down, and started sorting through our finances. In about 15 minutes, I'd locked things up tight. Shifted some cash out of reach. Closed off access to anything she could potentially drain. I scheduled a meeting with a divorce attorney for later in the week. That would give me a few days to gather more intel, some solid ammo, if it came to that. Claire had her own accounts, her own credit card. I didn't care about that. But our joint account? That was the one she could still access. Not anymore. I cut that line off. If she tried to get anything else, all she'd find was what was left. My personal account only had a modest balance, the rest was already stashed safely elsewhere. No kids meant a clean break, legally speaking. If it came to a split, it would be fast and brutal. But still, some stupid part of me held on to hope. I told myself that if Claire came clean, if she confessed and asked for forgiveness, maybe we could work through it. But if she kept pretending? Then we were done. That thought hit hard. I leaned back in my chair, staring at nothing, letting it all settle in. Everything I'd done so far, it was just the beginning. I needed to know more about this Bob guy. I needed proof. Or maybe just enough confirmation to light the whole thing on fire. That's when my phone rang. It was Sammy. I told her I'd already started putting things in motion, getting stuff in place. She sounded relieved, and then she dropped another bomb. His name's Bob Stones, she said. Married. Got a couple of kids. My friend looked into it. Works downtown. Lives not far from Claire's office. I rubbed my temple. You're kidding me. Nope, she said. And they've been getting closer. Trying to be discreet, but it's obvious. Send me everything you've got, I said. Minutes later, I was on his social media page. I pulled up his photo and just stared at his face. He looked familiar. I couldn't place it, but something about him sent a chill through me. Around lunchtime, I decided to call Claire. I needed to shake the tree a little. She answered cheerfully. Hey, babe. Just heading into a meeting. Oh, yeah? I asked, keeping my tone light. With who? Client named Mr. Stones, she said. Just like that. I bit my tongue. The rage was immediate, but I kept it buried. That's nice, I said. Talk later? Of course. I love you, she added. I gritted my teeth. Love you too. I hung up and sat there, fists clenched. The secretary poked her head in right then, probably sensing the storm brewing behind my fake smile. Hey, she said cautiously. I'm heading to the deli. Want anything? I thought for a second. Yeah. Get me something heavy. Red meat. Something I can tear into. She gave me a strange look but nodded and left. She wasn't wrong. Something was brewing. Meanwhile, Sammy made a surprise visit to Claire's office. And just as she stepped into the lobby, the elevator doors opened, and out walked Claire. With Bob. Tall, dark-haired, early 30s, just like his photos. Claire tensed the second she saw Sammy standing there. Sammy smiled like nothing was wrong. Hey, sis! Was in the area. Thought maybe we could grab lunch. Claire looked rattled. I've got a business lunch. With Mr. Stones. Bob extended a hand politely. Nice to meet you. Sammy didn't miss a beat. You too. So, how long have you known Claire? That hit like a dart. He hesitated, then stammered something. Claire jumped in, pulling him toward the door. We're late for a meeting, she said quickly. They disappeared into a waiting cab. And as they drove away, Claire looked back at her sister. Sammy just smiled. She already knew. I sat in my office, chomping through a giant sub packed with red meat, grinning like a lunatic between bites. I chewed slow, savoring the flavor, letting the satisfaction wash over me while I mapped out my next moves. Sammy had just confirmed that Claire had left the office early. She'd even called Claire's secretary to double-check, and sure enough, she was. Out for the afternoon. Of course she was. Perfect. Everything was in place. I'd already locked down our finances and had a locksmith ready to roll, terms agreed and scheduled. My divorce attorney was on standby too, just waiting for the last pieces of info before we kicked things into motion. Tonight was the beginning. Stage 1. Time to screw with both of them, just enough to rattle their world before I brought the hammer down. My dad always said, don't tip your hand. Don't warn them. Just go straight for the throat. The man wasn't big on words, but when he said something, you listened. Maybe I'd forgotten that somewhere along the way. But now I remembered. It was coming. That evening, Claire strolled in like everything was fine, hair neat, eyes bright, smile in place. At first glance, nothing seemed off. But when I leaned in to kiss her cheek, I caught it. That scent. Men's cologne. It wasn't mine. I didn't say anything. Just gave her a soft kiss on the cheek and turned toward the door. She noticed. Where are you headed? She asked. Everything okay? Yeah, I said, keeping my voice even. Just a poker night over at Jerry's. Some of the guys from work. Thought it might help take my mind off things. She smiled like she believed me. I walked out, shut the door, got in the car, and peeled out of the driveway, jaw clenched so hard it hurt. When I reached Jerry's place, he was already waiting in the garage. Jerry had always been a solid guy, built like a linebacker, calm under pressure, and had his fair share of history with the cops. A fighter, trained and tough. We'd been close since high school. When I called him earlier, I didn't even have to explain. I just said I needed him, and he said, "When and where?" No questions. No drama. Exactly what I needed. I changed into a pair of dark overalls and slipped on a ski mask. Jerry did the same. We stood there like two silent mimes, nodding once before stepping into an unmarked, nondescript sedan he picked up second-hand. No flash, no reason for anyone to remember it. We drove across town in silence, heading toward the address Sammy had given me. No conversation necessary. We'd already gone over everything. We parked outside Bob Stone's place. The house was quiet, just a faint light in one of the upstairs rooms. We waited. Eventually, the front door opened, and there he was. Mr. Stone's himself. He got in his car and rolled down the street, unaware that we were now following him at a safe, steady distance. He headed straight for the local driving range, which we expected. It was a regular routine for him, apparently. Jerry eased the car into a spot in the lot. We stayed inside, the radio murmuring in the background while we watched and waited. My nerves were on fire, but I stayed still. Walking around would draw attention. We needed to wait for the right moment. Eventually, the lot emptied. Just a few cars remained. Then we saw him heading back to his car. Jerry slipped out, moving smooth and quiet toward the target. I kept my eyes locked on the scene from the driver's seat. No one else around. No security cams. We'd checked that earlier. After a few tense minutes, Jerry returned. Calm. Cool. Mission accomplished. I drove us out of the lot without saying a word. Once we were a safe distance away, Jerry peeled off his gloves and mask. "That went smooth," he said with a grin. I exhaled, the adrenaline finally starting to fade. "Thanks, man. I mean it." He shrugged. "You don't owe me anything. After everything you've done for me, this is nothing. We help each other," I said simply. "And hey, no busted hands. No cameras. We did it right." He smirked. "Damn right we did." Back at his place, we joined the guys for poker. 4 hours of cards, jokes, and distraction. They didn't ask questions. They just knew something was up, and they had my back. That boost of support gave me the confidence I needed. Because soon, it was Claire's turn. And I wasn't going to play fair. I stumbled through the front door just after 1 a.m., pretending to be more drunk than I really was. Slurred my words a little. Let my coat slide off one shoulder. Jerry had already made sure my car was dropped off out front. Claire was still awake, waiting up on the couch. "You're late," she said, standing. "Everything okay?" I waved her off. Yeah. Just too much JD, that's all. Jerry and the guys dropped me off." I hung my jacket carelessly, ignoring the coat pegs on purpose. Every move, every word, I was setting the stage. And she had no idea. I dropped down onto the couch and just stared blankly ahead. Claire sat across from me, arms crossed and that same look of irritation stamped all over her face. She was trying to keep it together, but her disgust was obvious. I stayed quiet, just waiting. Eventually, she couldn't hold it in anymore. "Steve," she said sharply. "What's going on with you? Is there someone else? You've been acting weird, distant. What's happening?" I let out a dry chuckle, doing my best to smother the fury building inside me. This wasn't the time to explode. I needed to stay in control. "I'm fine, babe," I replied with a shrug. "Just going through a rough patch lately. But don't worry, it'll all be over soon." My words hung there in the air, deliberate and vague. She looked thrown off, unsure whether I was threatening something or just having a midlife crisis. But I could tell, something about my tone got under her skin. That night, we went to bed. She seemed ready to talk more, to maybe force a confrontation. I gave her nothing. Instead, I pretended to pass out the second my head hit the pillow. That drove her nuts. The next morning, Claire was already up and making coffee when I came stumbling downstairs. I put on a whole show, rubbing my temples, grumbling about a hangover, dragging my feet into the kitchen. "Morning," I said, voice hoarse. "My head is killing me." She tossed me some ibuprofen like she was throwing scraps to a stray dog. While I drank my coffee, I noticed her phone sitting on the kitchen table. Just there. Unlocked. Vulnerable. My eyes locked onto it. She saw me looking. And in that second I caught it, a flash of panic in her face. Subtle, but real. Like she was fighting the urge to snatch it up but knew doing so would look suspicious. I kept it casual. Poured myself some orange juice, then picked up the phone and glanced at it. A message had just popped up. I didn't read much, just enough to know it wasn't from a coworker or a family member. Sliding it back over, I said, "Battery's low. Don't want you to miss anything." Then I walked out, heading upstairs to get dressed. I could feel her eyes on my back the whole time. She stood there in the kitchen, chewing on the possibility that I might know something. But she quickly shook it off. She thought she'd been careful. She told herself it had only been a few weeks, just some flirty lunches and hotel hookups. It was nothing serious. Just fun. And Steve? He was clueless. At least, that's what she told herself. But deep down, she was starting to question it. She couldn't even remember the last time we'd been truly close. She wondered if her emotional distance had finally triggered my suspicions. And she was right. I hurried down the stairs before she could try to kiss me goodbye or ask more questions. I dodged her half-hearted hug, gave a lazy wave, and drove off like everything was normal. Later that morning, just for kicks, I shot her a text. "Sorry about this morning. Lot on my mind. Should all be sorted out soon." Then I leaned back and waited to see how she'd react. Around midday, Sammy dropped by my office. She was tense. "You didn't tell me," she said, eyes wide. "What happened? What are you talking about?" "Bob," she said. "An employee at the golf club found him in the trunk of his car this morning. He was beaten up. Bad." I kept my face blank. "Claire told you that?" She nodded. "Yeah. She's freaking out." I shrugged. "I don't know anything about that. Doesn't really matter to me either way." I explained that Claire had learned about Bob's condition through a meeting she was supposed to have with him. His company had called to say he was in the hospital. His wife had contacted them. Sammy looked at me sideways. "You know, your story checks out. But I'm just saying, next time, it might not be so clean." I smiled a little. What can I say? Accidents happen. Usually in the strangest places. That evening, I got home and found the house dark. No car in the driveway. No note. I called Claire, putting on a cheery voice. "Hey, just wondering where you are." She sounded distracted. "I'm at the hospital, visiting a friend. I won't be long." "Well, I hope they feel better soon," I said warmly. "Take care." Then I hung up before she could respond. About half an hour later, she walked through the door, looking absolutely drained. Her eyes were puffy, her makeup worn. She looked like she'd just been through it. "How's your friend doing?" I asked gently. She paused. "Not too serious. She just fell. Should be home in a few days." "Glad to hear it," I said, flipping the coffee machine on. "Want some?" She nodded. "Thanks." We sat at the kitchen table, and as she sipped her coffee, she brought it up, finally. "So, there was this incident at work. One of our reps got attacked." I looked up, eyebrows raised. "Really? What happened?" "Someone beat him up," she said. "Left him in his car overnight. It's awful. But he's okay. Nothing too bad. Just shaken." "Was it a robbery?" She hesitated. "No, nothing was taken. It's like someone just wanted to scare him." I nodded slowly. Her eyes flicked toward me. And then it hit her. She realized I knew. That I had known for a while. Her face dropped. She looked away quickly, trying to salvage the moment, but the damage was done. She had slipped. And now she knew I knew. She mumbled something and stood up, saying she needed to change. I didn't stop her. I just watched. I figured she'd be reaching for her phone any second, but the question was, who would she call? I realized I needed to pivot. Things were moving faster than I'd anticipated. Time to shift gears. I called up the stairs. "Claire, I've got to head out for a bit. Won't be long." "Everything okay?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, just something I need to handle," I replied. I grabbed my keys, got in the car, and headed to the other side of town. Bob Stone's house. I parked out front and knocked. A petite woman with dark hair answered. She looked wary, confused, maybe, but didn't shut the door. I kept my voice calm. "Hi, I'm Steve Ryland. My wife, Claire Ryland, has had some involvement with your husband." Her expression froze. She didn't say anything, just stepped back a little, and I took that as my cue. She led me into the living room. We sat down, and the weight of what I was about to say settled between us. "I'm really sorry to be the one to tell you this," I began. "But Claire and your husband have been having an affair. He's in the hospital now." The words barely finished leaving my mouth before she crumbled. Tears spilled from her eyes as she folded in on herself, shaking her head in disbelief. "I knew it," she whispered. "I just knew. He's done this before. We moved back here to get away from all of that, but I guess people don't change." She looked up at me, pain etched into every line of her face. "I'm divorcing her. Your wife. She's had her chances. I can't take the lies anymore." I nodded slowly. "I get it. I didn't know how long it had been going on either. But now I know enough." She wiped her face with the sleeve of her sweater. "What happened to him? Do you know?" I met her gaze evenly. "I didn't touch him. But I can't say I'm broken up about what did happen. Maybe he messed with the wrong person's wife." She gave a half laugh, bitter and quiet. "At this point, nothing surprises me. I don't think you'll be seeing him again," I said. "He's probably going to be out of your life now. If you need someone to talk to, or legal help, I've got a great locksmith and solicitor. Here." I handed her their info, and she took it without a word. As I drove home, I thought about everything. About the quiet, twisted satisfaction of what I'd just done. About the storm still coming. I'd kept my rage in check, but that didn't mean the fire was out. There was no coming back from what Claire had done. My heart hurt, of course it did, but I took some comfort in knowing that the pain she and her little side project had caused was now returning to them, amplified. I don't forgive. When I pulled into the driveway, Claire's car was exactly where she'd left it. I tapped the hood of it on my way by, absent-minded, like a man lost in thought, and slid my key into the front door. For a second I paused. This could be the last time I entered this house as a husband. The thoughts sat heavy on my chest. Inside, the air was still. The low murmur of the TV came from the living room. I turned the corner, and there she was, sitting rigid on the couch like someone waiting on a sentence. Her eyes met mine, wide with fear. Her body trembled ever so slightly, and she looked like she was gearing up to say something, but nothing came out. I didn't speak either. I just walked past her into the kitchen, poured myself a drink, and returned to the doorway, glass in hand. Her eyes stayed locked on mine. Waiting. Hoping for a sign. But I gave her nothing. The woman I had once adored, shared my life, my bed, my future with, was now just someone who'd hurt me. Deeply. And that pain was etched in every silent second between us. She finally straightened her back, maybe thinking she could bluff her way through. "Where were you?" she asked, her voice tight, almost annoyed. I took a sip. "I'll tell you where I was," I said coolly. "If you tell me where you were." Her mouth opened, but she paused. "I told you, I was at the hospital. Visiting a friend." I stared at her unmoved. That flash of fear crossed her face again. She tried to cover it quickly. Why are you acting like this? She pushed. I shrugged. Stop the games, Claire. I visited someone too. A friend. Someone I hadn't known long, but the conversation was important. I hadn't met her before. I told Claire, still calm, still holding that same blank expression. But now, we're friends in a way. Her face went pale. I had a nice little chat with Bob Stone's wife, I said slowly, letting every word settle in the air like dust. Asked her if she knew anything about her husband's affairs. Claire's eyes darted away. I could practically feel her squirming in her skin. I told her about the affair. Yours and Bob's, I continued, watching the panic build in her expression. She wasn't surprised. Turns out, this wasn't his first rodeo. Claire opened her mouth like she wanted to speak, but nothing came out. She tried to recover, shifting her tone. Steve, are you okay? Let me get you a drink. I ignored her offer. How long were you going to keep lying to me, Claire? She didn't answer. I stepped in closer. I already know. I've known for a while. I've just been waiting to see what you'd say. It didn't mean anything. She stammered. We were just close. I scoffed, shaking my head. Closeness? Really? That's the best you've got. She scrambled to explain, words tumbling out, half apologies, half excuses. It was just twice, that's all. Just twice. Twice? I repeated, letting the word hang. So now we're down to math? Was that supposed to make it better? Was screwing him worth this? Worth our marriage? She burst out with another apology. It didn't mean anything. I swear. I'll fix this, Steve. I'll make it right. I laughed bitterly. You're only sorry you got caught. Don't act like this was a one-time slip. You would have kept going if no one said anything. You got good at lying, Claire. You started to believe your own BS. She was crying now, really crying, but I didn't flinch. You're not the woman I fell in love with, I said, voice low and steady. Not the woman I married. She just stood there, sobbing, the weight of it finally breaking through whatever wall she'd built to protect herself from guilt. Her voice cracked when she asked, What can I do? Please, I'll do anything. I looked her dead in the eyes. It's over. Then I pulled out my phone and dialed. Sammy? Yeah. It's time. Claire's head shot up. Wait, what? Where am I supposed to go? I shrugged. Anywhere. Go back to the hospital for all I care. Back to Bob. It doesn't matter. A few minutes later there was a knock at the door. I opened it and let Sammy in. She's all yours, I told her. Get her out of here. Now. Claire froze. Steve, please. If you don't leave now, I said, my voice trembling with restraint. I'm afraid of what I might do. And despite everything, I still care. So go. Sammy didn't hesitate. She moved fast, packing Claire's essentials into a couple of bags. Claire was a mess, crying, begging, lost. But I didn't budge. Thanks, Sammy, I said quietly. We'll talk soon. It didn't take long. In under 10 minutes my home was free of her. Of them. But the pain? That was going to take longer. Still, I wasn't done. That night, I stood in the backyard, staring into the flames of the fire pit. Everything of hers, photos, clothes, letters, little keepsakes, burned away. Ashes. There was no way she was coming back. Not now. Not ever.